Welcome everybody to Chit Chat, a podcast where we talk about pretty much anything under the sun. And on today's episode, our first episode, we have a good acquaintance of mine, the bass player, producer, dog dad, master of the dad style, Wyatt Rydlewski.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Hello. And on today's episode, I want to take a look back at the tumultuousness that was 2020. And why? You people watching, if any yet, are asking why, because I listen to Coldplay when I'm sad and I like pain. But honestly, 2020 was a mess. And it was a mess for various different reasons. The biggest one, the elephant in the room, COVID, and then the whole shenanigans that happened in the middle with Black Lives Matter, and the police brutality, and then Trump from 2016 to next Wednesday. That's neither here or there. Before we begin, how are you? Because we didn't really talk about that, right? So talk about your life. How you doing, baby?
Oh man, overall, I think that things are going generally well. We're doing how we can, and I'm happy to say that there's been a lot of growth going on, so that's nice.
Yeah, same here. And let's go from the beginning. How was your New Year's going to 2020? Were you bright-eyed, hopeful?
Well, I thought.
What did you think?
I was like, 2021? Yeah. As long as it's not 2020 anymore. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're about a week and a half in, so. No, 2 weeks.
But how was your New Year's going to 2020?
Going into 2020? So like the end
Were
of...
you hopeful?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so was I. I remember laying down at my friend's house. We were supposed to go out, but we didn't because we were lame. And I was like, new decade and all. And I was like, let me be hopeful. But boy, was I wrong. How... So tell me about your year. Like, what happened?
Well, I mean, like,
Give me a rundown.
It couldn't have been that different from everybody else's. I spent a lot of time inside. I know that, like, a lot of people have like, experienced 2020 as being a kind of, it was a dark year for a lot of people. And I definitely experienced a lot of darkness of my own. But overall, I'm really happy to say that I think that I took the time to myself. And personally, I did a lot of learning and growing and reflecting. I think that this sort of time alone, the quarantine, sort of that lack of a creative outlet for a long time really forced me to be creative. So I think that it's been a year of victories as far as my individual artistry goes and my growth and my education. But it is by no stretch of the imagination been an easy one, you know what I mean?
I feel ya. How you do freelance, right?
Yeah, for a bunch of different things.
What are those things? Plug your stuff in for the people.
So mostly what I do is I play music, primarily as a bass player. This year I also went back to school to get a teaching certification, so I've been playing a lot of piano for that as well. So music, I do a lot of remote recording. I used to play out, play a lot of gigs and stuff like that, a number of bands. Really whatever I can. I'm also a teacher full-time, so there's a ton on my plate to keep me busy. But really, as long as it's music or teaching, I'm really, really happy. But one thing that, now that I think of it, one thing that has been a real disappointment of the year is one of my greatest loves is traveling and getting around, and that was very, very shut down.
Very much so. I remember because the past 4 years, since 2016, I was like, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna do my thing, I don't want no distractions. And then I burned out in 2019. I was like, I'm gonna take 2020 off. I'm tired, I'm over this. And I couldn't do nothing but sit with my own thoughts. And something that I meant to ask you, how was like your whole business impacted? Because I know you, or more like live, right? Your students come in, so you did mostly things through Zoom, your lessons through Zoom?
Yeah, almost all my lessons. Well, initially all of my lessons had been pushed online. I lost about half of my student roster just because parents lost their jobs, students didn't want to work over Zoom. All of my gigging income was out the window. Later on in the year, certain people's recording projects started getting booted up because they spent a lot of time writing. So they did call on me to play on a lot of their recordings, but it really was, it paled in comparison to the freeness of my working life before COVID hit.
Yeah, that's crazy. And moving on to your personal life, how did you manage? Was it hard for you? Because I know some people that I know personally, because they're already like work from home, they have like that sort of job, it wasn't that much of an impact personally to them, other than the fact that like they couldn't see their family during the holidays and whatnot. So how did you deal? How are your relationships?
I mean, it's definitely for one full year, for a 12-month span, just as varied as any other year, So I think that personally, a lot of my relationships went magnificently. I'm super, super blessed to have a lot of friends and bandmates and family who, my relationship with them is strong enough and secure enough to where I could be away from them for months or even years at a time, and we could pick right back up. And in fact, one of my best friends in the world moved to England because he has dual citizenship. He saw what was going on in his country, and he was like, bye. So he's gone. He's overseas now. But that gave me an excuse to start writing letters to my friends. And so, I got this, big postcard collection from my travels. So I started sending those out to a bunch of friends. So it was an excuse to stay together, stay in touch with them. But of course, there were some really dark lows as well. A lot of my friends that I wasn't quite as close with, or even acquaintances, you could say, people who I was like, good with, and I saw regularly. I feel like some of that might be, so a lot of those relationships might have suffered just because they needed a little bit more love and they were a little early on in their development. But I'm hoping to pick them back up, as early as now.
That's good. Personally, one big thing for me this year was things that I thought I was okay with crept back up. I guess because I was alone for, I wouldn't say for so long, because I actually had to go to work. I work at a hospital, so I had to like go and see people. I wasn't like isolated. But looking back, I see a lot of things that I were like, I got over that, or let me just, I don't have resentment towards this or this person, crept back up, and I was like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Because, and then like you're alone, and I do this thing too, I don't know if you do that. I go to bed and I put music on, and then I relive scenarios. Not relive them, but like make them up.
That's what my showers are like. I'll just like stand there, I'll be like, oh, it's been 30 minutes.
And my mind just wandered this year. And it brought me to a place, at least right now, where like, okay, so I know what a lot of my issues are because I let my thoughts run rampant. And it's just come to, I guess, a place where sort of an understanding with myself. And I think, at least the people that I speak with and I talk to, this past year, 2020, brought a lot of self-understanding. Either if you were completely, you had to isolate certain states that you live here in the United States, or you had to, just look after yourself. Looking back, I think brought a lot of self-understanding, and also understanding of the place where we're at as a society as well, like politically speaking. A lot of stuff that were already occurring, I felt, boiled over this past year. So, what are your feelings on that?
Well, I think it was, you very articulately put it, with boiling over. They're always there.
Yeah.
These things have been a problem forever. you know, for as long as this country has existed. But this year, it seems, with a lot of people not having their jobs, with a lot of people having a lot of free time, and just things being recorded more and more, every day another thing would come to light, you know. And I think that a lot of the places where my relationships have suffered have been where I was like, oh, you think that about that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that
a lot of unfollowing was done this past year.
Yeah, you could say that again. I mean, this year is kind of unprecedented. You know what I mean? There's been more violence that we've seen. I don't know, you know, we never know what we don't see.
Yeah.
But I think more people have seen more really horrible stuff on their TV screens and their phone screens or whatever they do, even to their grapevine, just like word of mouth. There's more negativity going around now than ever before, and I think that it's really important that we kind of guard ourselves with that, with like love, make sure that we're taking things in, processing them properly, and balancing it out with an equal amount of positivity or more than equal.
Yeah, going back to news and whatnot, and big backing off of what I said with like knowing yourself and being aware of like certain things about yourself that you weren't because you're so by yourself and you got to figure those things out. News media had to be something, at least personally, I had to control because it was so. I love it. I'm always plugged in, either on Twitter or I get like those news notification, and especially like June, July, I had to say, okay, let me just back off because it's getting too dark. Let me breathe a little bit and then I'll go back to you. Did you feel the same way?
You know, this year I think I've deleted Instagram more times than ever in my life before. It's like ridiculous. It feels like every day I'll just be like, enough of this, bye. And then like 2 days later I'll be like, but I don't know. I've long believed that cable TV is a scam. So like I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theory in that.
I don't even have it.
Yeah, no. I'm like streaming services. You know, if I want to be entertained, but you know, I'll find my news in other places. But even like everywhere you go, it just takes a real set of research skills in order to get anything done now.
Literally.
You know what I mean?
Or like getting like the real truth of what is going on in the matter, because there's so many sides with their own agendas, and you have to like really have to be your own journalist to figure out like, okay, so what is really happening.
Exactly. And you know, my strategy for that has been finding people who are on the ground. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like for example, especially with what's going on in Portland right now. You know. What's that?
Still going on?
Still going on.
For real?
Can you believe that? Every single day since March.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you said on the ground, I think there was like a Facebook page, right? Where they like constantly post videos of people like in those protests.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
There's this one journalist who is there all day, every day. I forget her name. Her Instagram handle is like Revolution Daddy or something. It doesn't sound very newsworthy, but she posts unfiltered videos, unedited videos of what's going on down there, and it just like it makes you sick. But it's just such an important reminder to know that like, you know, this is supposed to be a first world country, but this is happening every day in one of our like richest cities in the country. This is like supposedly, you know, like a coastally, like very metropolitan area, but like Portland, Oregon, like there's a show about, there's Portlandia, come on, like, and that's happening there? What? So, you know, again, the news isn't reporting on it. You didn't even know that it was still going on. It's every single day, and you know, finding those people who are there, doing that research, even messaging them, talking to them, because a lot of them are just regular people like you and me, and they're all very accessible. That's one of the good things I think about, you know, the level of accessibility that we have, is that, you know,
it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, no one out here is gonna try to get the news from their fan mail to Tucker Carlson or Anderson Cooper, right? So we have to message to people on social media who are actually there and get their take on it, because, you know, that's going to be the least filtered form of what's going on.
Yeah, and to to piggyback off of that, one thing that I really noticed this year was the level of awareness that people seemed to tap into. Because I've never seen people be so aware of what was going on in their communities, in their countries, worldwide. Like, the amount of people that I know in my own circle that were tweeting about this that I never thought were like into news, honestly. The only thing they were like into like YouTube and like Netflix shows. I'm like, wow, your research. And that was like a shock because that's something that I was used to seeing. Like, people were very in tune of what was going on.
Yeah, I think that when the stakes are high, everyone needs to have something to do with it. Everyone needs to know what's going on, and the stakes have been high this year. Yeah, I feel like everyone's got something to say about something, and a lot of people should have something to say about everything, whether I like it or not. But like, I will say I've been pleasantly surprised a lot, at least as much as I've been horrifically disappointed. So, there's that at least.
What did you do? Did you have any like free time? Did you learn anything new?
So much free time. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, like I said, piano. Piano's kind of been my big project over the past year or so. And it's been a big set of growth for me. I've never, even with bass, which is my main instrument, like, the work that I put into that instrument was spread out over years, to get where I'm at right now. But for piano, I started playing like 5 weeks before my audition, which was like I think it was spring of 2019. So like for the past two-ish years, I've just been like nonstop playing piano. I'm kind of grateful for the quarantine and the pandemic because because if it hadn't been there, if I had kept my student roster, if I'd kept playing gigs the way that I was, I don't think that I would have been able to get good enough at piano in order to stay in school for it, because it is a very, very demanding instrument. So there's that. I've been on and off with practicing my French. I love France and Paris and French Canada. So I want to be able to speak that. Could be a little better practicing that. Exercising, eating right. Those have been the tricky ones for me.
Right. Yeah, I can eat right, but I don't exercise.
Yeah, I feel that.
I don't do that. I don't. Never felt that. Never heard that. Don't want to feel it again. I should, but here I am not doing it. With having so much free time, I think I forgot to pace myself personally. I put so much on my plate that I got nothing done.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Yeah, I think that was like one of my biggest lessons too. Just pacing myself, because I fucked up this year. With like, I'm gonna take this class, I'm gonna have free time, I'm gonna take this class, and well.
Oh my god, yeah, Skillshare, Masterclass, those companies probably are just like only Purell made more money. You know what I mean? Because everyone's like, oh well, I've got so much free time.
And Zoom too. Oh my god, the amount of people who found out about Zoom.
How do they even make money? Everyone's got a free account. I don't even know.
That's true. How do they make money? Because I remember I do online school regardless, right? Like, I was already, so when everybody went online, I was already doing it. So it wasn't a big change for me. So, and I remember my teacher saying, now everybody knows about Zoom. Now they're about to make so much money. And we're saying, how to make money? Everybody has a free account.
Yeah, right? I mean, like, maybe the big institutions, you know what I mean? Because they got their meetings and stuff like that, so, I mean, an account for them isn't cheap. Yeah. Like, if you want to pay for it, you know what I'm saying?
And what are some of the things that you were going to take from this 2020? Any lessons? Any advice? How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
24.
24. Lit.
Any advice? Man, that's. I mean, I think that one of my skill sets that was tested the most, that I think I grew the most in, and I would recommend everyone, grow or aim to grow in as well, is really trying to be perceptive. And by that I mean be able to, adjust your point of view, be able to look from many angles, and try to, find, mostly in the context of finding good in things, because things have been so easy to perceive as being very, very dark. But whatever you find comfort in, be able to take that comfort and use it for good. Be able to take that comfort, feel yourself in this comfortable place, get yourself back to there so that you could give back to the world. I think that one of the main reasons why things are so dark and dangerous right now is because there's so many people who are unwilling to give back to the world. There's so many people who are unwilling to, be as safe as possible. There's so many people who are unwilling to recognize the dangers that are in front of us. And because we've got this struggle going on, we're just in this cycle of negativity and, things that keep showing up as bad news. So, definitely being perceptive, recognizing, you don't need to feel the despair in order to deal with it. You don't need to feel the negativity and danger. You don't need to suffer from it in order to fix it. And I think that a lot of people are worried about confronting these things because it's painful. And I think that there's a degree of discomfort with a lot of the things that I've had to explore this year. But it ends up being negligible when you look at the outcome, when you look at the growth, and when you look at the happiness, and when you look at the love that can come out of it, and the positivity as well. Because what's on the other side of this? That's kind of the important question to ask. And I think that if I had to give advice, it would be being able to adjust your approach and being able to keep what's on the other side in mind, because that's the prize.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Personally speaking, I think one of the biggest advice that I can take from this past year and I can give is to just pace yourself, deal with your own inner situation, if that's maybe seeing a therapist, doing therapy, or just really, I'm very big on talking to myself, or just dealing with myself verbally and listening to it. So if that works, do that. Also, just don't take things at face value, because there's always, and I'm not even talking about politics, but there's always, and there might always be an agenda. Always do your due diligence and just take things one step at a time, I say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this little chit chat. See what I did there. And I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.